It's Sunday, April 26th today. I'm Jeremy with Jeremy Lou Photography. You guys, you are listening to Raw Focus podcast with me, just getting to know regular people. I'm a photographer, father, mentor, educator, YouTuber. I'm kind of everything tech-wise. But I started this podcast to get to know people in my life a little bit better. And this episode is no different. This episode is with Asa Gilmore of Asa Gilmore Photography, a photographer in my area that I've known of and known for a while, but more through social media, more through a couple meetings, and who's completely different than what I do. And you kind of figure that out when we talk about it in the podcast itself. Um, Asa's a father, a husband. As we were recording this, he's doing outdoor camping with his daughter during the lockdown. Our lockdown is extended here till at least May 15th, as far as we know, although it's not a definite date set up. And so we kind of chat about that. He definitely has a certain style to his look, his personality, and his work. Whereas I will take 1,000 pictures in a portrait session, he can focus on taking 10 images and we can both come to the same result of an amazing, epic shot. And I envy that so much. Also, super positive outlook on life. And really, that's what we need right now. So what I'm noticing talking to a lot of people is that they're not sitting there bummed around, sad that everything's happening to them. They're finding ways to make it better. And so he's in the same boat as me as far as everything goes, right? Money and all that stuff. And we don't live too far from each other, but he has a great, great outlook. And I do love that. Anything in the news right now, guys? It's Sunday. I woke up, did this. I'm not too sure what's going on. I'm checking less of the news every single day, just getting frustrated on everything that's going on. We don't know. We don't know. Unemployment, SBA, all that stuff. Nothing happens. SBA round 2 is going to start tomorrow. My stuff's already out there, so hopefully I get it. I have a cut on my lip that I don't know what it's from. But that's it. We're going to get ready to do a parade here for my neighbor who's 11 today. Brevin, happy birthday, Brevin. And he is 11, so we're going to do a little car parade in front of his house with whoever wants to come out. So I'm going to get set up for that right now. So before I let you go, guys, if you could subscribe, rate, share this channel. I'm getting more and more subscribers, more views every single day. So thank you so much for the support. I'm finding my groove. I feel like it's working. This non-celebrity, I'm not a celebrity. I'm not interviewing celebrities. So it's definitely tougher to push out there than, the big wigs. But I do envy them so much on what they do. So thank you so much again for this. You can find everything in the notes or comments or wherever you're looking at this. If it's YouTube, if it's Facebook, I have everything listed for you guys to get a hold of me and chat with me. And also stay tuned for more business type podcasts, 30-minute business type podcasts where we kind of focus on local businesses and that can push their stuff out through the Corona time and then after the Corona time. So depending on when you're actually listening to this, it might have passed by then, but still great businesses you can check out online or in person, especially if you're in the Reno area. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Without further ado, here is Asa Gilmore. What's up, buddy? Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, finally. Sorry about that. Technical issues, of course you set a deadline. I need to connect in the next 15 minutes and the entire internet goes out and then your computer needs to be restarted. So
oh my God. When I first started this, I just trying to connect to Facebook Live and it wouldn't work the entire time. And then so I ended up like having to restart the computer, restart everything, cancel the podcast, and then bring them on again. And then now I found it, I just have to log out and log back into Facebook and it fixes everything.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I've been doing, obviously, like we all have. I've been doing a lot of meetings online, and just the getting used to it has been interesting. I mean, there's definitely a little bit of learning curve with it. So
right, dude, what's in the background? I love those. What are those?
Oh, that's my wife collects old rock and roll posters.
Oh my God, those are sick.
Yeah, they're amazing, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is your wife a rocker like you?
Yeah, well, there's your drum.
I've always had illusions or internal grandeur of wanting to be able to play the drums, and I get in like get in front of the drums and I'm like, I got this. And all of a sudden it's just like,
Right.
nothing's happening.
Yeah. No, it's one of those things that seems simple, and then once you actually get in front of a drum set, it's incredibly complicated. But yeah, when I met her, God, I was like 20 years old. She was in an all-girl rock band, and
Oh my God.
yeah, no, she's pretty awesome.
How long you guys been together?
Oh, let's see. We are edging up on
20.
years. Let's see. I met her when I was 20. I turned 40 next year, so yeah, 19 years.
That's awesome. That's a long time.
Yeah.
When did you guys get married?
Uh, let's see. It would be 2009. Yeah,
Mhm.
2009.
That's good. Yeah. A nice long little date before the wedding,
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
smart. Asa, your business is Asa Gilmore Photography.
It is, yeah.
All right, cool.
Or AG
Awesome.
photo, whichever. Google my name, you'll find
Right.
me.
I'm gonna do a little when we go live, I'll do a little plug. So how this works is it's pretty simple, man. We're just gonna chat. We're just gonna talk about everything going on. The reason I started this podcast was I feel like I put so much stuff out there that people know a lot about me, my kids, what I do,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've never taken the time to like sit with another person and just like, hey, tell me
Hmm.
about your life. I'm so like egotistical and I'm so all about me,
Man,
and it's
you
my
run a
life.
business. You do a great job of promoting it. You really do.
Thanks. Well, yeah, and so I mean, I think I spent so much of my time, branding myself that I felt like a dick. I felt like I want to learn about people. So, like people like you, like we talk on social media. I met you like a handful of times in person, but like
Sure.
I'm gonna learn a ton of stuff about you, and ultimately that's kind of why I started this podcast. So really, there's nothing off limits on my end. We're just gonna chat, talk, but I do want to get into what's going on with the coronavirus, what you feel about photography, some of your clients, and then take this opportunity to pimp yourself out and push out anything that you have while we talk. I'll have Facebook Live going, but I'm not really going to like talk to them. We're just going to let them know that we're doing it.
Sure.
What'd you do this
Hey.
morning? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is, I don't know if you've seen the post that I've been putting out on Facebook, but one of the ways that I've been dealing with all this is the camping with my daughter, and just
Yes, I
like
saw that.
that sort of fiction. So that might be something. I don't know if that fits into the scope of
I
what
think that's cool. We can even, I mean, we can start with that. So what are you doing? You're camping in the backyard?
I am. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sometimes we invaded the big house at dawn, but
And you said this with your daughter, right?
yeah. So
How old is she?
basically, she's 6, and one of the things about this is that obviously this has an effect on our kids as well. And I know that you as a parent have felt that too.
Right.
So um, I walked into my daughter's room like a week or so ago and realized that she was just kind of feeling low. She missed her family, she missed her friends, she missed her school, she missed the. We've tried to set a schedule as best as we can, but obviously it's changed, right? So
Right.
the thing that I came up with to alleviate that was to move into the backyard in a tent. And backyard camping is it's just a fun thing anyway. But we've kind of kept it up, and this is day 7, and obviously there have been incursions into the big house, but I've been posting about it, and it's actually strangely turned into an inspiration for a new photo series. One of the things on my list for today is to run an extension cord out to the backyard and set up some lights and do a portrait of her next to her little tent, just kind of as a start and a visual theme for the whole thing. And
Right.
yeah, I don't know where the project's going to go. It's just it's been a fun way to keep me occupied. So.
I mean, I like that. So like what are you guys doing when you're camping? I mean, is it just sleeping outside, or is it like the full camping experience where you have no technology? Like what are you guys doing when you go camping?
Well, so obviously it's just in the backyard. I mean,
Right?
our tent is 20 feet away, so it's not like it's that bad.
Right.
It's not like no technology or anything. I don't bring a laptop out there or anything like that. I kind of try and keep the outdoors to be the outdoors.
Right. That's
Uh,
yeah.
most of the nights we have a fire and a little fire pit on the patio, and marshmallows are a big thing, so we do that. And some nights we come in and watch a movie, and then we go out and retire to the tent. So
I love, so it's, I mean, like, so I have kids, you have kids. Do you find that you are like taking their pictures a lot, or like I feel guilty if I don't take their pictures for like 2 or 3 days, that's how I started photography.
yes.
I
So the funny thing for me is the longer that I've worked in photography, and it's been a pretty long time now.
Right,
The well, and it's a matter of approach too. It's not so much that I don't take as many photos of them. It's just that my approach to photography is really a little bit complicated. Like, if I don't show up with a truckload of lighting gear, I feel like I'm
you're
doing something wrong.
you're not a photographer at that point.
Well, no, it's not so much that I'm not a photographer, because I have a lot of friends, yourself included, who do an amazing job with natural light or minimal light,
Right,
and for that matter, I do some editorial shoots and stuff like that with 2 or 3 monolights or whatever, but
right,
uh, it's still a setup process. And for me, like, my favorite photos that I've done have always been more of a planning process. So it's more like, I want to have a concept and a picture in mind. And like, my favorite photo shoots have honestly been the ones where I take like 10 pictures and then we pick one, and that's the shot, right?
right,
And obviously, some photo shoots, the shoot list includes more than that. But as
right.
far as like, that single image that you're after for a particular topic, I always just try and plan that out and nail it. My camera system is as people sell their cameras on eBay or whatever, and they talk about the exposure count, I think about the exposure count of my photo shoots compared to some photographers I know. I don't know about
No,
you.
I mean, one portrait session an hour, I'll shoot like 1,000 images. So like, I'm probably on the other aspect of you completely.
Yeah, no, because I mean, I've literally taken an entire day and
Yeah.
come up with a single image for a client.
So I feel like that's a purist thing. I feel like that's I actually love that. I envy that. I have this like OCD. Even when I take pictures, I have this OCD where I have to take like it's like a click, 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 click,
Right,
click,
right.
click, click, click. And so when I'm shooting pictures, I'll get it in the first like shot, but then I'm like, what if I don't? What if something happens?
Yeah,
But even talking to like,
I totally get that too. I totally get that, and like that's why I take 10 images.
right, right. Well, and so and I
But no,
envy that.
and in fairness, like, a lot of like, you take 1,000 pictures in a portrait session. I might only take like 40 or 50,
Right.
but a lot of that time is spent running around adjusting lights and messing with the radio triggers that always seem to have some kind of issue at some
I
point.
know. We spend most of our time troubleshooting.
I mean, I can't believe that we're at this point in the technological era and we can't get a radio trigger that works reliably. It's amazing.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, like I mean, everything I'm using is wireless now, and battery operated. So the technology is amazing. But yeah, sometimes you get to that point where you're like, dude, how is this still happening? How is this not working? So what I want to say is, I envy that fact that you're I feel like it's confidence. I feel like you're confident enough to go into a shoot, get those 10, 15 shots, and know that, hey, I got it. I'm gonna go home and work on it. And I still don't feel like I have that. I still feel like, what if? Like, even when I leave a
Right,
shoot, I'm always
but
like,
but,
I should
but
have gotten this shot.
you already said, you're like, I know I got the shot. It's just like,
Hmm.
you need some backup, and I'm the same way. Like, I'll take like, a couple of pictures, and obviously, with the digital era and everything, it is easier to kind of see what you have, make sure that it's in
Exactly.
focus and all of that. But when I was first starting out, I worked as an assistant for a commercial photographer, and this was just in the era when we were transitioning from film to digital. And he was, like, a higher end commercial photographer, and
Right.
uh, mainly shot on 4x5 before that. So him transitioning to a digital SLR, even at that point, was kind of an early thing. Like he would like, he was kind of playing with it for some of his clients and then
Right.
shooting 4x5 for others. And I came in like right at the transition of that. And so a lot of what I learned about photography and a lot of my approach to photography, frankly, is from the way that he shot, which was, I mean, I have you ever shot with a 4x5? If you have,
No.
so if you take a 4x5 camera, I have one in the office on the other end of the house, but it takes so long to set the thing up. I mean, like you set it up and then you put the hood on and then you
Right.
focus it. And
It's
then
that one that you have to go into it.
yep, yep. And then
Yeah, I don't even know how to work that. Like I wouldn't even know what to do.
yeah. So you focus it, and then you set up the flash cord, and you do a Polaroid, and then once the Polaroid turns out well enough, then you take the final image on film, you bracket it. You have 4 shots. They're in focus because you've looked at the ground glass on the back of it with a loop,
Right.
and uh, and then you wait for it to come back from the lab. And at that point, I mean, uh, digital photography for us at that point was, we would get our film back and have it scanned, or we would have a scanner. But usually, for 4x5 stuff, you would have it scanned, and then you would composite those images if you needed to, or
Right.
you would light it enough that you didn't need to. But it was that kind of level of preparation, and that's just the way I've always shot since then. So getting back to taking pictures of the kid and everything, like I haven't taken pictures of my kid. I take cell phone snapshots here and there, but like an actual
Right.
picture, I haven't done that in a couple of weeks at least.
Right.
And
And do you feel, I mean, are you okay with that or do you feel
oh yeah,
guilty? Okay.
no, because here's the thing. Like part of that whole little camping in the backyard series is that like that's let me come up with a concept for a portrait of her that like I'm seriously this afternoon I'm going to roll like 5 monolights out into the backyard with an extension cord. And unlike you, I really like the well the battery powered stuff is getting there, but it's just not
Right.
quite there yet as far as the level of wattage that I want.
Right.
So I'm gonna roll like 5 750-watt monolights to the backyard, a
Jesus.
couple of soft boxes, do a little hair light. She's going to have her favorite dress, a princess tiara,
Of
and
course.
whatever else she wants to
Right.
involve in it, and her little tent where all of her dolls are sleeping. So, and
Dude,
that's gonna be
I'm
my photo
yeah,
series.
I love that. I think like so I miss doing stuff like that. Like I mean I'll still shoot my kids. I have 4 kids and we'll do a lot of natural light running around the house stuff because ultimately I
Sure.
want to that's my goal of documentation, but like I'll take them to the studio and we'll do like a full setup. But I remember when I first started photography, like in the backyard, I would buy like a couple strobes off eBay that had no brand names to them, and then I would set them up, and we do a lot of jump shots, we do a lot of run through, see what we can catch,
Yes.
and that excitement that I had just learning, we don't do that anymore. That excitement's not there anymore because I'm so like involved in the skill of photography that it's second
Yeah,
nature
so
now.
I think that's the thing about doing it professionally is it kind of ruins it for your personal life. Like in all honesty, my mom will ask me for like a family shot, or my wife will ask me for a family shot, and I'm like, oh God, do I have to really set up all the lights and do that kind of thing?
Get anxious,
Uh,
yeah.
well, it's not so much anxious even. It's
Oh, that's
just
me.
it feels like work. But then you come up with the right concept and make it a little exciting, and it can be a lot of fun.
Right.
But it's hard to balance that when you do this for a living.
Right.
And I think that is actually one of the things that I have struggled with over the years is, back before I did photography full time, I had definitely a lot more just like kind of art projects with photos.
Right.
And now, like, I do the tintype thing, but since I moved to the new studio, that's broken down while I get the dark room read up. And, a while I get really personal project, just an art project, but
Yeah.
as important as that is, and as much as you need to do that to keep your business going, because otherwise you'll go insane,
Right.
then you also have to balance that out against your clients' deadlines and everything like that. And sometimes you get off work and you don't want to pick up a camera. You just don't.
No, I
And this,
agree. I mean, it's like the old time joke, like a plumber's plumbing's never good, landscaper's
yeah,
lawn's
yeah,
never good. And I always joke with
yep.
my wife, I'm like, you're lucky I'm not a gynecologist because nothing would get done. So hang on real quick, Asa. So everybody, thank you for joining us. I kind of jumped on live here without even telling him, but this is Asa Gilmore of Asa Gilmore Photography, or AG Photography. I have him tagged in everything here. We're raw focus. We're just doing a chat between two photographers today, which has been more rare than late, just because of the corona and everything that's going on. Asa is an amazing photographer and videographer. He just did a commercial for Ryan's Saloon that he sent me, that I watched, and it was super cool. It was super, costumey. I saw a donkey. It was just unique and awesome, and I think stuff like that's going to stand out a little bit more. But I wanted to introduce him, and feel free to comment and all that stuff. And then if you guys haven't yet, please subscribe to Raw Focus on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Asa, I want to know, have you kind of been stuck in quarantine with us all, or are you still keeping busy, or what are you doing the last like month and a week or so that we've all
Well,
been stuck?
like all of us, we're kind of adapting to stuff. The There have been, a number of projects that have been canceled, and I'm sure that that goes for any small business owner who
Yep.
especially deals with other businesses. Like, it's not so much that I can't go and shoot things, it's more that my clients delayed some things because they're dealing with all the same stuff that we are.
Right.
um, but I'm lucky in that I have a few clients who still need product photography done. One client, Petra Hygienic Systems out in Sparks, they make hand sanitizer, so they're doing pretty well
Oh,
right now. And
yeah, they're
so,
probably killing it.
yeah, so they've been having me, continue my usual product photography for them, and that's been great. And then, there's been other little projects that have come along. The Ryan Saloon project, the owners of Ryan's have been good friends of mine for a long time, and I've been actually working over there to just help, fill in the gap
Right. Right.
with everything else going on. So, I was like watching business was going, and I was just like, let's try and do some advertising to figure this out. And so that's kind of how that commercial
Oh,
came
that's
around.
awesome.
And
Right.
it was interesting filming that thing too, because like part of the problem of doing projects like that with the current crisis going on is that there was a bunch of people in that video,
Right.
and we couldn't have them all show up at the same time. And yeah, so we had to actually schedule the whole thing, so like everybody came up every 10 minutes. There would be a
Right.
new
So you had to
little
like
shot.
figure it out in your
Yeah,
storyboard and figure out
yeah,
how to
yeah, yeah,
place them and all that.
yeah. But I've been talking with other businesses about doing similar stuff. Of course, like part of that is how long it's going to last. Like, do you shoot a topic like Ryan's? Like, we got in at a point where I knew that we would get enough play out of that
Right.
that it would be worth it. But if you spend a lot of time shooting a commercial for the COVID era, and then the COVID era ends in a week, which, I mean, that would be optimistic probably, but
Right.
I hope. um, but it's kind of like, how much do you put into that? So I think there's a lot of hesitancy out there as far as like, just advertising, like, that you had a certain level of certainty in the world, and you could make plans for your advertising based on it. And right now it's like, well, do I talk about how I offer takeout food, or do I talk about how you can come in and have a beer? I don't know. Like,
Right. Right. Yeah. And yeah, because they're saying that we don't know if it's going to be, May 15th now is what they're kind of pushing at, or if it's going to be, they're saying up until next year and winter is going to come back or something like that. So yeah, I totally agree. Like, how do you advertise in that spot? Do you want people to come to the business or not, or plan on not coming? So
yeah.
that's something weird to think
And
about.
for some of my business owner friends, and luckily most of them seem to be getting through this pretty well so far, but I know definitely for some of them it's like, am I going to have a business? And
Right.
if I'm not going to have a business, then why am I advertising right now when I don't have any customers anyway? So there's that aspect of it too. So
So, Asa, how do you feel? I mean, are you guys? Do you kind of like this downtime? Are you guys kind of learning a little bit more about each other? I know that you're doing the backyard camping with your daughter, that
the,
project, and
the
that's what
time
we're
with
talking about, the pictures.
yeah, the time with my kid has been great. Um, the the downtime, honestly, I realized how much I love and miss my job.
Right.
Like,
Right.
before this, we all went like, okay, think back to January.
Right.
January's, I'm sure that we all had a day in January where we got home and we were just like, oh God, that was just miserable. I
Right.
would go for that day in January right now.
I know. I mean, at least you had that. At least I had that feeling of like putting a day's work in. Like
Yeah.
right now, I'm doing computer stuff. I'm doing the podcast.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I'm like, what did I even do today to like do anything? Like, and that's always
Well,
my thing. At least I can shoot all day.
so are you dealing with the whole school closure thing and having
Yeah.
to do protection for your kids and all that?
Yeah. So our kids
Because
go to a charter school, so we're not part of Washoe County.
yeah,
So we started ours about a week before. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I didn't even think about. I'm lucky that I'm a tech guy. We do well in business, and I have computers and laptops and iPads galore. So we have 3 kids that need this. And I was talking to somebody else, and they have like 4 kids, and they only have one computer, and they're struggling. And I'm sitting there like, I didn't even have to think about that. So how does that happen if we have to do these homeschooling things and these kids don't have ways to actually get it? I know Washington County is doing printouts now, but our school just didn't offer that. How are you guys doing with it all?
well, so on the tech front of it, that's been fine. Kind of like you, I have enough of that laying around. It's just balance of it, like in uh, the spending time with the kid and doing just more person instruction and everything. And there's been trying to balance that out with my wife's work schedule, with my work schedule, and all
Yeah.
of that. Um, Fritz, come over here. You're gonna knock over the computer. Sorry, my dog just walked.
That's right. Yesterday we had a cat tail come everywhere. So like a little kitty was below. You see this little tail coming up. Super cute, but yeah.
Anyway, so, that's been more of it. But on that tech front, you brought up an interesting point in that there are some families out there that are having to adjust to having their kids home and having to deal with technology that they haven't really had to use individually before and all of that. And
Right.
I've been working with my Clamber chapter, the Snowshoe Thompson chapter of Eclampus Vitus,
Right.
which is it's a nonprofit historical group. You've probably seen me post about it a
I've
little
seen a
bit.
ton of it, but after you talk about this, let's get into that because I have no idea what that is, man. I have no idea. I
Yeah,
see it. It looks cool. There's a cool logo.
right. So one of the things that we do though is usually when all of this stuff isn't going on, we have a volunteer day every month, and we have like 20 or 30 guys that just go to a local nonprofit or historical site, help them with the product that they need. And one of the organizations we work with is Computer Corps, and they're a group in Carson City. They've got a warehouse down there, and they provide refurbished computers to veterans, to nonprofits, to low-income families, all of that sort of thing.
Whoa.
So one of the things that I just set up this last week was that between the Snowshoe Thompson chapter of VCV and Computer Corps, we donated 4 computers to families that needed them in the local
That's
area.
awesome.
So we're trying to do more of that kind of stuff too, and I think that that kind of community building and it's it's hard to keep it going in a time when you aren't supposed to like be out and socializing with people, right? But
Right.
we can still do it, and the fact that we were able to make that happen, and I'm talking with Ron, the director of Computer Corps, about hopefully getting more systems done, and we might have to stagger volunteers to go in and rebuild them or something, but we'll figure something out. So
Right.
and again, that's also something where it's like, well, how long is this going to go? Like, so uh, we'll have to sort it out, play it by ear, but but we're trying, and
But that's
I
good. I
think
mean, yeah, you guys are doing something, and
yeah,
yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, yeah, it's stuff that we never thought about. You know, like my biggest concern, obviously, when the schools hit and all that, was Lindsay and I are both self-employed, so we adjust our schedules, and she hasn't worked since it all started. She does hair and makeup, and I haven't worked really at all. I was more concerned with the whole fining and loss of license and all that stuff, and putting my clients at risk, and all that junk. And since I do, social media a lot, if I do a shoot and I accidentally post it somewhere,
yeah,
I know somebody's going to tattle on me.
you're pretty visible in that, and yeah, I mean, I have business owner friends who have gotten in trouble on social media for that, and
Hmm.
it wasn't even a current thing. It was just like
Right.
an old picture was posted
An
or
old picture,
whatever,
but
and
somebody's like, yeah, and there's like all these, yeah, narc groups that are like calling the police, and they're like, hey, this person's still open. And I'm like, I
yeah,
just don't need this in my life.
yeah, totally, totally. Well, and I did, like, for you, so I don't photograph weddings at all. In fact, I usually refer people who ask me about them
I love
to
it.
you and
Yeah.
a couple of other photographers in the area.
Thanks, buddy.
Um, but I know that my friends who have weddings coming up this year are postponing them and having to deal with that. So that's been a thing. And
Right.
what what I do instead of wedding photography is I'm actually an ordained minister, and I've done a number of friends' weddings. And so the one that I was really
Oh,
looking forward to this year is just gotten pushed back to October, and I have a couple other
nice.
ones in the works, but um, I mean, they're all going to happen and they'll go off well, but I can imagine how this has impacted your business, because I mean, I look at how it's impacted mine. It's been considerable,
Right.
and not even dealing with groups of hundreds of people. So
Right. I mean, with the weddings, yeah, I think all my weddings, that I had scheduled, I think it was like 15 weddings that I had scheduled before August, have all postponed to either later this year, next year, or they don't have a date yet. But they're all keeping me, which is nice. But ultimately, you're losing money anyways, because if they're
yeah,
moving to next year, I would have had these dates booked.
yep,
Luckily, I have my commercial clients. I still do portraits. I'm selling gift certificates. So I'm a hustler in general, an entrepreneur. So I always have a way to make money. It's just I get upset when like I'm doing so well, and then all of a sudden my savings now has to become, you know, we're not getting the money from the government,
yeah,
that they won't
yeah.
let us work, and then that's my frustrating thing. I mean, I think we're all
It,
on this
it,
boat,
it
man. I
I
mean,
think
it's stupid.
it's been frustrating for all of us, man. I mean, it's yeah, and we're all going to we all get to that point where it's like, I had all of these things going and it was fine. Like, why
Right.
did it have to stop? So,
Right.
uh,
Well, yeah.
yeah, it, it's a hard time to be a small business owner. I think that you've seen some of my posts on Facebook. I'm really frustrated with our state government,
Yep.
and I think they've been completely ineffective. And especially with the small business owner thing, you know,
They just
there's been
don't care, right? I mean, I feel like they
it,
just
it,
don't give a shit
it,
about us, and it's like
we pay
whatever.
their salaries, and as long as we keep paying their salaries, then they're fine. That's it.
Yeah. I
And they're
like
still being paid.
I like when people like you, who I feel like are smarter than me in this political government stuff. Like I'll admit I know very little. I don't even, I don't care enough to, like, I know what I know and I talk about what I know. But government stuff, I
Sure.
just know what affects me. So if the government's going right now, and I'm dying because of it, I'm not making money, but I'm not allowed to do this, then I start to, then that's when I get pissed. But reading your posts, you seem to understand what's going on, so that's where I kind of get my education from, and help with the frustration of everything.
I don't know if
um
I understand what's going on, and going back to what you said earlier, talking about what you know is something I wish more people did these days, because
right.
there's so much misinformation out there. As far as the political stuff, though, I mean, I've worked in the ad industry for a long time, and I've worked on uh, political campaigns, both locally and on the state level. And uh, obviously, especially if you're really going to invest yourself in a political campaign, you have to believe in it, and you have to have some political beliefs. Before this, I kept all my political beliefs off Facebook. Like, what I've posted lately has been somewhat of an anomaly for me,
Hmm.
and to a little bit to downtime and a little bit to frustration. Because before that, I was, uh, when you're a commercial photographer, especially when you're dealing with business owners, when you're dealing with magazines and all of that, then I really don't feel like my political beliefs are that important to put out there in relation
Right.
to my clients and everything. Like, I don't want it to reflect upon them or cause any confusion there's all sorts of aspects
That's
to
what we have to think about though, man. I mean, if you have if your name's out there and you have your client base and you say something, it's like even with celebrities, right? They'll
yeah
like an athlete will say something and all of a sudden Nike's going to drop them. Has nothing to do
yeah
with Nike, but you have to worry about that.
yep, you absolutely do. But uh now that things have gotten to this point, I'm like, well, I have to say a couple of things at least. I mean,
Right. Right. Well, and if you're smart about it, here's the thing, man. If you're smart about what you're saying, then it's kosher. Then it's fine. But if you're just ranting about bullshit and then taking a weird side and then, if you're being racist, if you're being anti-Trump, like stuff like that, then
but
people start to go,
the funny thing is, though, I mean, and this is why I've usually stayed away from that stuff as far as social media is. You can always find somebody to be offended by it. And that's why, getting back to my posts about, camping with my daughter in the backyard, I'm really trying to just focus on those, because when I get too worked up about politics, I just feel like, look, I mean, I can post about how angry I am about our governor. He's not
right.
going to do my post. He's not going to do anything
He's
about
not,
it.
yeah, he's not going to give a shit. Like I can
So,
write to him. I
yeah,
can call his
yeah,
voicemail.
exactly.
Nothing's going to happen.
So it's kind of like, I don't know. I think we're all juggling that thing where we're trying to figure out, what's the useful way to use our time during this and how to balance out well, as I told a friend the other day, I'm just working harder and making less money because now I have to school my kid. I still have to pay my taxes. I still have to
Right.
juggle my
You
life
pay
schedule.
the mortgage. You have to do all that stuff. And yeah, nothing. Yeah, and like that's the thing me and my wife were talking about. Even if they, everybody's talking about the whole closure being extended, but
Mhm.
school's out for the year. So I'm sitting there like, well, even if I get to go to work May 1st, who's going to be home watching the kids? Daycares are closed for my 1-year-old. So
Yeah.
what do we do then? There's days that I can't work
And
because of it. My girls are old
you're
enough to
having
be at
way
home.
more midgets than I am.
Oh my God, yeah. Like we just kept going, man. We just, we kept going. Actually, so I mean, I've been talking about this a lot. I was supposed to have a vasectomy on April 1st, and they rescheduled that to May 6th. And so that's probably gonna get rescheduled too. So like right now, we're just in this limbo world of like praying that we're not part of the group that's in 10 months from now gonna have a new baby boomer kind of situation, which is probably gonna happen.
Well, if you move into the backyard with your kids,
Yeah.
it does alleviate some of that.
Right. Well, that's also the benefit of having a lot of kids because they're everywhere all the time.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's really, it's like, hey, meet me on the roof. 5 minutes. We're gonna make this happen. Hey, so what else do you do? So here's the thing. I know you're a photographer, videographer. You were doing these tin prints a while ago in the basement.
Yeah.
You're
The tin
like
type.
everything photography, right?
Well, the tin types are just like an art project for me. So basically, tin types, wet plate collodion, whatever you want to call them, they're basically an 1800s photo process. So
Right.
it's like Matthew Brady used in the Civil War. And I have to say, like, working with this whole thing gives me a ton of respect for somebody who could take a wagon onto a Civil War battlefield and make portraits of soldiers
Oh my God.
in
Right.
unpredictable East Coast humid weather.
Right.
And like, I mean, I was doing it in my last
Okay.
studio where I had a darkroom set up, and in totally predictable conditions. And
Right.
still, the silver nitrate pH would be a little bit off, or it would need to be recharged, or whatever, and all of these variables that enter into it. So basically, the process is you actually take a plate of tin, you
Okay.
coat it with this, we just call it collodion, but it's collodion and a few other chemicals and compounds. And then you soak it in silver nitrate. That makes it light sensitive. Then you put it in a dark box and put it into a 4x5 camera, or whatever format you're shooting,
Sure.
and then you expose the print. the tricky part is that you can't do this in advance. It's called wet plate collodion because it has to stay wet.
Oh,
And so you have to shoot it within a few minutes of when you coat it. You have
right.
to process it like pretty much immediately after you take it. So at my best, when I really had the process dialed in, I was doing about one plate every 15 minutes. And
So you'd have to take a picture and then do that. So
yeah,
basically, you
so
have to have
so
a
so
client there or
basically,
somebody there.
yeah, so basically, you set up the camera, you kind of set up your shot. You go into the dark room, you coat the plate, you wait for 3 minutes for it to sensitize, you put it in the dark box, you put it in the camera, then you take the picture, and then you go into the dark room to do the developing and fixing.
Jesus, that's so much work.
Yeah, it's like it's like Polaroid. It's like a crazy
It's
version of Polaroid because
right. I mean, well, at least with
it's like
Polaroid,
kind
like I
of
can at least leave and then come back and like leave it on the table and,
right because it's like kind of instant. Like you get to see it like almost right away. Like one shot every 15 seconds. You still get to see it. It's not like
right.
the film days when we were sending stuff off to a lab or something. But it's also and it has all of these variables. Like the fixer is literally potassium cyanide and distilled water, and if you don't wash the developer well enough, the developer's acid, and that will mix with the potassium cyanide, and that's bad.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah,
So
like, oh my God.
it,
Just
it, it's
explosions.
it's that's really the only dangerous part of it, but yeah, you end up with all of this like weird chemistry. You have to make it all by hand. Um, if I didn't have like the commercial studio and a business license, I wouldn't even be able to order some of this stuff.
Right.
But um, but it's been a fun little kind of side project for me, just to like use all the studio equipment that I have, and also kind of keep my hand in that analog stuff that I love so much. Because I mean, I've got this huge collection of analog cameras, and I like to take them out and photograph with them once in a while. But the tintype process, because the chemistry expires and you have to basically rebuild the whole thing. Like
Right.
right now, I know I've got a jar of collodion in there that it's probably solidified, and I just need to remake the whole thing. The silver
Oh,
nitrate is going to be okay, but the rest of it pretty much just has to be gone through every once in a while. If you aren't using it, it doesn't work. So when I had it set up and running, I would just use that as a good excuse to get out my 4x5 camera and do
right.
something interesting once in a while, because otherwise I was going to lose all this work, right? So
Well, I mean, it's crazy because I honestly don't know, and I can't even think. Lee Shelley wrote lots of work, but the results are epic. And then Mark McKinnon wrote Breaking Bad Photography, which is kind of what it is, right? I mean, it's like a photography meth lab, if you will. Like I don't know anybody else in our area that comes to mind anywhere else that's doing anything like this. Like I'm a digital guy.
right.
I'm first to admit I've never processed my own film. I've never worked in a dark room. I've never done anything. I think when I
Neither me
started,
either.
the only dark room was at UNR, and then they closed it.
So my friend Gregory Bell, and shout out to Gregory because he's an awesome photographer.
Oh yeah,
He does a lot of analog work, and he has his process. You might hit him up for a podcast at some future date, because he's got his dark room pretty well dialed in, and he does a lot of just medium format analog, just good quality processing, and he's
right.
got an impressive darkroom capability set up right now. So, yeah, there's still people out there doing it. It's kind of like it's a small scene, and like you said, I think that you don't hear about people doing it that much, because like for me, I can't get anybody to pay me to take an analog photo. Like I've got my medium format camera. I've got all of this stuff that I like to play with, but it's not. It's the rare client that actually wants that look, and when they want that look, they want you to approximate it with digital. They don't want to go through the actual process.
So I mean, would that be something like? I mean, not that's going to happen, but if you were to go to like Virginia City, or is that something different? Like, do you think people there would pay for something like that if you had like a little shop?
Well, so not really. the folks who do the vintage photos in Virginia City, and nothing against them because I have taken my daughter up there. We've gotten great images that I treasure.
Right. But that's a whole different, that's just like a
But
sepia image, right? I mean, that's just
yeah,
like,
that's basically what they do is they take a digital camera and they put a sepia tone on it, and that's it.
right.
I've thought about whether you could, really streamline it and do actual tintypes, but I think the balance of the speed of the process and the overhead that you'd have, at least currently, is not really worth it. Like
Yeah.
you'd have to be doing other stuff, just like I was before. Like I had a dark room and at my last studio, but the dark room wasn't what paid the bills. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's a crazy thing, and it always interests me on how everybody spends their extra time. I feel like my extra time is movies, video games, running around, working out, doing all that stuff. But then I hear stuff like that you're doing, and I'm like, I should be doing stuff like that. Like, I'm a
Well,
photographer.
if it makes you feel any better, I haven't made a tintype since November when I moved out of my last studio, and then I haven't rebuilt the darkroom. So there's that. But there's also the research aspect of it. My eventual goal with the analog photography thing, and I'll get there someday, is to make daguerreotypes, which are the
What's that?
product before tintypes, and basically, it's like tintypes but scarier. I mean everybody who made daguerreotypes, including the guy who invented them, died from the process because
Oh my God.
it uses mercury fumes.
Right.
So
Mercury fumes.
yeah, mercury fumes actually are the developer for the plate. So
Oh
to
yeah.
do it safely, you have to have a ventilation system and there's a name for it in the chemistry world, but it's basically a box that encloses the whole process and then it vents out. But yeah, the whole daguerreotype process is it's kind of what I want to graduate to once I get better at the tintypes. Like I feel like
Right.
I got close to dialing the tintypes in, and then the studio move and all of this happening has kind of thrown a wrench in that. But in the next few years, I'm hoping that I can get back to that, really get into it, do some larger format stuff, like get back to the 8x10 tintypes that I was doing for a while. I've looked at a little bit into building a really big camera, like a 24 by 24 inch large format.
Right.
But that's way down the road. But eventually, maybe this is like a retirement dream or whatever. But I'd like to be doing daguerreotypes. I think that would be cool.
I think, yeah, I mean,
Obviously with a fume hood with the full safety.
I mean, yeah, you don't want to be that guy, yeah. In 2025,
Yeah, no,
photographer dies of fumes.
But look it up on YouTube, just the daguerreotype process and
Yeah.
how they do it, and look up Louis Daguerre. He basically invented photography. I mean, it's pretty much the first photographic process.
That's yeah, I mean that's crazy. Even for me to even think back on like how, like I don't even know how my camera works. I just know what I have to do to it to make it take a picture.
Sure.
But like, yeah, the stuff that people had to create, I mean, even mercury fumes and all that, like who thought of like that as like, hey, this is what's going to happen, and whether it's an accident or not, and that's crazy.
Well, I mean, at first it was more of a chemistry experiment than a artistic or documentary endeavor, and
Yeah.
it evolved from there. And I mean, really, even when you look back at like some of the earliest photos, like there's like the first few that were just like a scientist working in their laboratory that took a picture out of the window, and it's the quality isn't really there. But even
Right.
as you go on, like there was a certain time in photography where photographers would take a picture for an artist to reproduce because illustrations were so much better quality than photography. And
Right.
in fairness, depending on the illustrator, that's still the case today. But
Yeah, no, yeah. Awesome. So let's swing this back. So one of the things that I always notice about you is whenever I see you, obviously I see your profile picture. You have a very distinct style. even with your and the people that are listening to the podcast can't see this. If you're on Facebook right now, you have a little handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
Is that a handlebar? It's like a little
Kind of
twirly
hard,
twirl. I am very Asian, so I can't grow anything other than like straight down.
right?
Where's your style come from? And I'm also curious, does your wife match your style in like the girl version?
Well, my wife does not have a mustache. I have told my daughter that she can grow.
Ugh, right. Man up, baby. Man up.
But no, I actually, well, I can't grow that great of facial hair, to be honest. Like I can't grow anything on the sides at all.
Me neither. Yeah, this
Um,
is it.
but I started growing the mustache because of the beard and mustache contest on Nevada Day in Carson City. So
Oh.
when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in Gold Hill and Virginia City area,
Mm-hmm.
and now that when I joined the Campus Vitus that I mentioned earlier, they have a entire building and everything up there, and for a long time there was this huge rivalry between Virginia City and Carson City as to who was the most bearded community. And it was a rivalry partly because Virginia City was such a lower population, but they would win every year.
Right.
And
I feel like
so,
BC would win all the time. I don't know. I feel
yeah.
like that's just their world.
Well, now, honestly, for the last few years, Carson City has won because it's just fashion trends change, whatever. There's more people.
Right.
But I started growing the facial hair because I went and photographed it one year, and with my friends from Virginia City, and I realized that if you at that point, at least the rules have changed now. You have to have a full beard in order to go up for this, and I don't have that. But at that point, for the most bearded community, anybody with facial hair could get on the stage for any community. So I would go up there with my friends for Virginia City, and at least be one more in the count for them. And then when the Carson City guys went up there, I would try and bribe them with beer not to go up to the stage, or whatever.
Did it work? Just give them some beer, like, hey, buddy.
And well, so the funny thing is, it's after the Nevada Day Parade on the legislature steps, kind of at the time, like it's
Right.
in this little seating area. And there's this one guy who was always in the contest. I got him almost across the street before his buddies realized that I had taken one of theirs.
Oh my God.
They got him. But it was,
I guess when you cheat like that, I mean, it's pretty bad.
well, the beard and mustache contest, well, beard contest now, like it used to be more of a beard and mustache contest, but it is a lot of fun. And Nevada Day and just Nevada in general is one of my favorite things. Like, that is a running course through my work. You've seen some of the other photos that I've done, the black and white portraits of the older gentlemen on my Facebook page.
Yep.
Marsh Fay's one of the ones that is pictured on there, and his father actually invented, well, pretty much the slot machine as we know it. And his family used to own the Liberty Bell, which was this great restaurant with all the slot machines.
Yeah.
And so I've been privileged to know some interesting people that I feel are historical to our area, and kind of try to incorporate them into my photography. And the Casales photos, for that matter, that's another example. Like, that's the oldest restaurant in Nevada, and the family there is just incredible. So yeah.
That's so are you from Reno? Are you born and raised here?
Born in Carson City, raised in the Carson Valley, Genoa, Minden, Gardnerville, Alpine County, Markleeville area.
Okay. And then where do you live now? Where are you at right now?
I live in Reno, just off Wells Avenue.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, close to the old Hatch back in the day.
Yeah. No, you were actually right up the street from me, and I kept meaning to get up there, and didn't make it over there before you moved it. So
I know. Yeah. Well, now it's closed, so we've closed Hatch completely. So, which, I mean, it wasn't sad. Like, I was ready for it to close like a year before it closed. I was just drawing it out for the community, and then
having shared spaces with other photographers,
right.
I can only imagine what it would be like running a place like that. Like,
It was chill at first. I mean, basically my whole thing was, a gym for photography, right? So
Uh,
making sure that people had a place to work, knew where to get licensed, knew where to get their insurance, and just kind of put everything together. And then what ended up happening was years down the road, photographers just started to get, um, I don't want to say annoying, but like they were expecting us to do more than we were supposed to do. For instance, like if you sign up for Hatch, we supply you with everything. We have workshops. You're more than welcome to come and do one-on-one mentorship, but you have to ask for that stuff. We're not just going to like give it to you because we don't assume that you need that.
yeah,
But then, somebody signs up 2 months later. We haven't seen them in the studio one time. And all of a sudden they come in and say, Hatch isn't working for me. I'm not making any money. I'm failing at photography. You guys aren't doing anything for me. And I'm sitting there like, well, if you join a gym and you don't go to the gym and you get fat, are you going to call the gym and blame them for it? So that's where it was at. And it happened so much. And then people weren't paying their monthly dues, even though we had contracts. And so I just got to a point where I'm like, why am I, like 4 years into it, I'm like, why am I doing this? Because the creative outflow wasn't really happening anymore. And I was getting busier in my commercial work. So I wasn't as available.
well,
Now life is a lot easier.
you were running an entire studio for rent on top of running the commercial photography business. And I mean,
Right.
I looked into renting out my studio, and then it was like, well, okay, so do I rent out the studio? And then if I do that, do I rent out the gear? And then if I do that, am I there? Just give them the keys, or like there's all these logistics you have to deal with. And you definitely have my respect for being able to juggle all of that.
And we solved all that. I mean, we solved all of it, but it just got to a point where we weren't profiting off of it. So I'm still helping the community as much as I can. I'm really hoping that somebody else kind of comes in and kind of takes over, somebody in the younger crowd now. I'm 36. You said you're almost 40. So I feel like I'm the old guy now, and all these new younger hip guys shooting on neon lights downtown Reno are where it's at.
I remember when we used to shoot neon lights in downtown Reno.
Yeah.
So cool.
I see it now, and I'm like, that's how I started, bro. That's like bokeh everything. Like, going by the Calneva
right?
and getting the bulbs in the back like blurry, but not having the gear that we had now. I'm like, how did I do this? I have a speed light, but I have to attach it to a wire, and then somebody has to hold it over here.
Man,
now
they're just up on my Facebook memories a while back. It was a magazine cover that I shot years ago, and I realized the magazine is no longer around.
Oh.
And I shot that with like about, I don't know, at least today, like maybe $100 worth of lighting equipment.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's, I remember doing shoots and trying to figure out how to get my speed lights, to fire all at once, or even just one speed light over here on the side to fire by moving up the flash on my camera, pointing it that way.
Yes, totally.
Did you know that, speaking of magazines closing, did you hear that Reno News and Review closed?
I did. And
that's a bummer.
They actually, Brian Berghardt, who used to be their photo editor before, or not photo editor, editor overall, before he retired. He gave me one of my favorite editorial photo assignments of all time. It was their best of issue, and we based it all off of Mark Twain's book Roughing It. And so it was all scenes from that book that were about Nevada, and it was just like it was such a fun photo series. I mean, it's still definitely one of my favorites. In fact,
it's weird to me. I mean, in my mind, and I talked about this before, I never even thought of a newspaper, magazine, or anything like closing. Like that was never my thing. I'm like, they're going to be pretty good, but then through everything, I'm assuming with the digital age and all that, I'm super bummed because it was best of Reno, best of whatever. They pretty much got my name out for 8 years in a row.
That's right. Because you've gotten best photographer for quite a few years now, and I had best filmmaker and best visual artist, and I got best photographer one year. So I mean, and those were great parties back then. I mean,
it was fun. Yeah, just recently going to Edge and free food, free drink, and say hi to the big wigs of Reno. But
exactly.
I wish they did more stuff like that. I wish like those type of parties happen more, where it's not really just the award ceremony. It's just
I would. Given everything going on, I'd take any kind of a party right now.
I mean, if you just want to come to my front yard, we'll just throw a balloon across the street or something.
I'll stand 12 feet away and we can.
I got a mask. It's cool. I know, but like I have my mask sitting up here. I have like 30 of
So
a mask now. I just keep buying them, but you can't drink anything while wearing the mask because you have to like go and
that is the problem. That is the
they got to
problem.
work on that. Like I don't know who needs Budweiser or something. Even Corona, if Corona comes back and
Right? It should come with
decides,
math.
yeah, it should. I mean, that's the way it goes. Hey, so we have this is going awesome, man. So we have about 5 minutes left here.
Sure.
What I want to do is I want to use this platform to kind of pimp you out a little bit. So a lot of people here that are watching this, that will be watching this, that will be listening to the podcast. I want them to get a way to reach out to you. Will you just give me like a cool 2-minute push on you, what you do, what you offer, just in case anybody's going to be looking for your services? I know we're both photographers, but I'm all about community. So push, please.
Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here today, and it's been a lot of fun chatting with you. So I do commercial photography, and I really only do commercial architectural product photography. I emphasize, lighting, studio work, all of that sort of thing. And basically, to find me or look at my portfolio, it's just my name, Asa Gilmore, ASAGILMORE.com. And and as a side note to that, Jeremy does great commercial photography too. So, you know.
Thanks, buddy. I mean, I pit myself out a lot. So, but yeah, so you're on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah,
Have you?
I'm on Facebook. I don't do such a great job of updating my business page, but
Right.
my personal profile is pretty much my business face, and I put everything on there that I think the public should see. So
Right. Yeah. And I think that's how, that's how it's hard to manage all this stuff, man. Like,
yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
too.
I have everything. I just started TikTok recently. Are you guys on TikTok?
I don't even know what TikTok is yet.
It's like a,
I mean, I've heard the name, but I don't know.
yeah, it's literally, I think it started out from an app called Musically, but it's like, what's that called? Where you sing along to people. It's not karaoke, but you, lip sync. Yeah.
I
You
guess.
lip sync to songs. And so if you go on TikTok, you lip sync to songs, but now they've modified some dances into it. So all these girls have these same dances. And really the only way to get likes is showing your boobs or butt. Like, girls wear these crops and they just like, I don't know how I'm getting so many likes. I'm like, you have no talent. You're just doing this. But then I find myself just going through it and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, cool. I use it on the photography side with the kids and all that. But I definitely did more of it with the Corona. I think all moms have started it with the coronavirus being at home. What's the first thing that you guys are going to do once you're able to do stuff?
Oh man, there's
What are
such.
you missing right now?
You there?
What do you miss right now? What do you,
To tell you the truth, like getting back to what we were talking about earlier, my Clamper chapter events are one of the huge things that I miss, and I can't wait to get some of those rescheduled and organized. So
right.
for that. And you were asking me like in a nutshell what that is. Basically, it's a nonprofit organization that preserves history. We put up historical plaques, kind of lesser known points of interest that the state or the local museums might not be able to really preserve, and also volunteer fundraise. Last year we raised, God, I think it was $6,000 for the Solace Tree. The Solace Tree is a local nonprofit that does counseling for kids who have lost a parent. So we do a lot of fundraising and community work and a lot of history work. But to do that, we put up we put on all these events, and they involve a lot of people. And of course, over the years that I've been in it, a lot of them have become my good friends, and I can't wait to get back to that.
Right. Are you guys still communicating, or do you have like a group or something you guys
Yep.
can chat with?
We have our online meetings, and we've done our best to keep the organization together and the various projects that we're doing on track. But like everything else, it's been in flux.
Does everybody there have a mustache and beard and long hair too?
Actually, it is kind of a running joke in the Clampers that you're like, oh, hey, do you know so and so? And they're like, oh, you mean the guy with the red shirt and the beard? So they are pretty much my people.
Right, I love that. Yeah, like I don't have, I'm glad you have that. I don't have an organization on the side that, that's non-photography related. Like there's no group of like Asian, kids that get together and,
Well,
Asian
you
things.
don't have to have a beard to join the Clampers. So
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I could like grow this. I mean, I could probably do something here. Like, I don't even know. But yeah, like I just can't grow facial hair.
Well, I have like I said, I would have a far larger beard if I could grow one. But no, it's been really good for me having that fraternal organization over the years, and kind of that scheduled outlet. Like, I get together with the guys for our meeting every month, and then we have our couple of big events a year, and you make good contacts, you meet good people. It's I think fraternal organizations are that's a whole other topic, but that's an interesting thing in the context of American society, and something that I feel like is both valuable and my particular organization is growing like at an exponential rate, but a lot of them are dying out. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
I
an
agree.
interesting thing.
Yeah, I don't hear much about them in general. And
Yeah.
actually, the other one, I think the other one's in VC that I know of. I shot a wedding in there. I can't remember the name of what type of organization it is, but it's kind of the same. Oh God, big thing. It's
What
kind of like
was it near Piper's Opera House?
it's on the main street.
Okay.
No, right next to Piper's Opera House was something else.
Yeah.
Down on the main street. God, I shot a wedding in there. What's it called? Like right when you first come into Virginia City from
Oh,
Reno, it's on the what?
was it the Mason's Hall?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I shot a wedding in there, and it was a
The,
whole different ceremony.
yeah, those guys are great. I know a few Masons, and they've been wonderful people too. Um, and yeah, I think it's a valuable aspect to society, but obviously I'm pretty deeply involved in mine. So
Right. Yeah, I think really just focus on yours. I mean, it's, even like in, college and all that, fraternities have their own different aspects, but this is something a little bit different. And I love the fact that you guys give back. So if I can help in any way with those, you keep me posted. All right. Hey, so we're going to say goodbye to Facebook, but stay on the line real quick. So go ahead and say goodbye.
Goodbye, Facebook. Thanks
guys so much for watching. Tune in for the podcast later. Bye. Awesome, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this, man.
Yeah, for sure. That was fun.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, when I first started these, I had a bunch of notes and everything, and now I'm just kind of like, I just need your name, and we kind of go from there. But I mean, you're just an interesting dude. Like, you just have so much shit that and that you can talk about. And we're both photographers, but I feel like we do totally different things, and that's kind of what I like about it. People kind of put us all in the same boat, and that's why we need to refer each other out to different things. There's certain things that I can never do.
Well, totally, man, and that's why, like, I refer people who ask me about weddings to you, and like my approach, even for commercial photography, is different than yours. And I mean,
I'm more in the lifestyle. I'm more in the lifestyle commercial photography, and
right.
You're definitely more sets and pre-planning.
Yeah. I really like I like to take a long time to plan out a shot, and like some of my favorite pictures in my portfolio were literally like, all right, I know where this light is going to go. I know where this light is going to go. There's 10 pictures that are bracketed so that I just have a couple of different expressions. Or in the case of like the architectural photos or something like that, not even, like maybe there's like 5, and they're just bracketed for different levels, and that's it. And so that's kind of how I like to roll, is just the pre-planning thing, but that approach doesn't work for everybody, and it shouldn't. Like, I mean, there's plenty of room for variety, and that's what makes it fun, right?
So. I mean, ultimately that's how we have to keep going, because we're in a creative world, and if we do the same fucking shit every single day, we're going to get bored of it, commercial, or payment or not, like if we're making money or not. So ultimately that's it. What do you guys got going on the rest of the day? You just going to go set up your 5-light setup?
Actually, I'm going to go check on my smoker, because it was just getting up to temperature when I got on the call. And I've got some homemade bacon and pastrami to throw on there. Then in the afternoon, we're going to do the photo. And then we might get together with some friends and have a burrito later.
Yeah, sounds awesome, man.
6 feet apart and all that.
We're starting to get a little relaxed on that. We stayed away from our family for 3 weeks, made sure everybody was chill and kosher, and then we went and celebrated a birthday at the in-laws' house the other day. And
yeah,
I think as long as you're safe.
I'm getting to the point where it's like, everybody should have been washing their hands and sterilizing should have been more anyway. That's
Right.
fine. But there's a certain point where it's like, all right, if it's whether we make a living and have a working economy or not, or
Right.
whether, like, I mean, especially given the death toll in Nevada and the
Right.
empty tent to renown that isn't even being used, and like, I mean,
I know.
I could go on with it, but I'm just like, I'm starting to be done.
No,
I'm sure.
yeah, and nobody's had it like that I know of, and they haven't been doing
I
anything
do know
dangerous.
some,
They haven't been going to concerts or anything. So,
right. Well, I do know some people who have. Um, Most of them recovered. I do know one guy, a structural engineer in Reno, and his son was 18 and died from it. And
oof,
that's, I mean, that's heartbreaking.
right.
Every time I think about, like, how pissed off I am about the whole situation or the politics, I think about that, and then I'm like, ah. But on the other side of it, he did have some underlying conditions, and
Right.
the overall level of deaths compared to what we lose from a multitude of other things is just not that significant. So,
Right. I guess when it hits that close to home, then you start to think of it a little differently. But I mean, we have lives to live, man. We just
yeah,
gotta keep pushing.
yep, exactly. Well, hey,
Awesome,
man,
buddy.
send me a well. I'll see your post on it,
So
and
this will be on Facebook, and then once I do the YouTube and the podcast itself, which will actually be in like a month or so, a month or two. I'm trying to put one a week out. I'll send
sure.
you that link, and then you can post it, whatever. But the Facebook Live is ready to go, so you can just share that anywhere.
Right on.
But yeah, dude, I appreciate your time. I know that you're busy, so thank you so much. Yeah, if there's anything you need in the future, man, just reach out. I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, on that note, like, I think it was right about the time that Hatch was moving and I was moving my studio and stuff.
Uh
But
huh.
just, I've got a ton of studio equipment. I have space. Um, if there's ever anything we can collaborate on, or if you need
Yeah.
something like that, let me know and we'll figure it out.
Well, when this is all done, I'll come check it out. I'll come see what's going on. I'm using
Yeah,
Gina's studio now, but it's just month to month, so like nothing. I
right.
don't know where I'm gonna float, which is nice. So I don't know where I'm gonna float, but she's been really kind to me. I mean, I reached out to Marcello too. I think he
Yeah.
was just
Oh,
super
I
busy.
used to share a studio space with
I
Marcello. I love.
remember that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
tell
So
him I said hi when you see him next. But yeah, my current studio space, like, it's not nothing like. So my last one was like 1,000 square feet,
right.
and my current one is smaller. It's more set up for just like products and portraits, because that's really all that I use the studio
Right.
for anyway. But I'm sharing the space with a client who has a lot of warehouse space, so there's room to move out from there, and there's
Oh,
opportunity.
cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, yeah. Let's hopefully a couple weeks. We'll come check it out. We'll come get together and grab a
Yeah,
beer or
that's
something.
awesome, man.
Awesome, buddy. All right. Well, then I will talk to you next time.